Hey guys, I keep on doing the True Green 7 opening. Who cares? We're live. And we're also not live for whoever's not listening live. Back at it again with the Pokémon Podcast and my co-host, Toby. What's up?
Is that all I am to you, a co-host?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's good to know where we stand anyway. Although I'm actually sitting right now. Quite comfortably.
Neither of us are standing. What a big blunder you have done. Right in the intro.
I may have done a blunder. So, actually, I may have actually done a blunder. We're streaming this live right now. People who are listening to this podcast, you're either listening in one of two ways, either on demand or live. And if you're listening to it on demand, you're listening to the podcast from 2 weeks ago. You should come along when we stream live. But I've just realized, I think the stream for this week is currently scheduled. Should I unschedule that?
The stream or the
video. So episode 31 is currently...
I actually went behind your back and I scheduled it for 4:30, which is when we are done usually with this live stream.
Oh, see, I didn't even have to worry. You've sorted it all.
You're welcome.
And this is, you know what? Thanks for being a good co-host.
Thank you, co-host, whose name I forgot.
Who are you?
By the way, so we have a chat right here, right? Now I'm thinking of like, what's the ethics of who do we shout out and who we don't? Like, for example, we have Lucas here, Lucas Gates,
okay.
Wonderful patron of both of ours.
Oh yes.
And like, if a patron comes in and into the chat, even though a lot of you guys are listening to this not live, do we still mention, hey, what's up, Lucas? Do we say that?
Yeah. I think we can say that. I think we can say thank you to the people that support us. You know, supporting financially, wow, is this turning into a plug really quickly? Is something that is absolutely never expected. We don't even have a Calm Mind Podcast Patreon or anything like that yet, but maybe that's something we'll do in the future, or maybe some merch. I don't know. But things like of that nature are never, ever, ever, ever expected, but they are always appreciated. And of course, if we see anyone who does that, thank you, Lucas Gates, who is a Patreon of both mine and yours. Yeah, thank you for the support and the love. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, pretty cool. Now, the last few weeks, have been talking about our opinions on Scarlet and Violet. I'm actually releasing a review literally tomorrow. I mean, for you guys, this is... For the people that aren't live, that's 2 weeks. For us, right now, it's literally tomorrow. So, this is basically a sneak peek for anybody who's here of all of my opinions. But okay. We already talked about, basically, the region, the new Pokemon, obviously the performance. That was the first thing we talked about. Yeah. You know, the visuals and presentation. And now we're going to finally talk about... we already talked about the region, but we can continue talking about the region. And now we're going to talk about the characters, the story, and hopefully, if we have time, music.
That's good. I have to confess, when it comes to the last two episodes, I feel like I've been a little bit too kind of upbeat and kind to the games. So I'm going to be a little bit more. I might surprise you.
So you said that last time, but here's the thing. I know
you
have probably some critiques
negative in this one.
You have critiques.
I'm going to try and do the opposite of that. I'm going to try and be like, because here's the thing. I need to work out a way of translating. You know, I didn't enjoy a thing without bumming everyone out, because it's genuinely depressing to listen back to. Although I think actually we're entering areas that I really genuinely did enjoy about the game. Characters, I guess, is a fantastic place to start.
Let's start with Penny.
Huh?
Let's start with Penny.
Oh, okay. Well, not Penny, obviously.
You see?
All the guys, yeah, Penny, flips table.
Let's talk about Miriam.
Who is...
Exactly. You see, Toby?
Miriam?
Not even Miriam. Miriam's best girl.
Who's Miriam? Is that
the
like
nurse.
the
She's
nurse?
nurse.
I thought it might be the nurse. I
love her. All the female teachers, at least visually, are very awesome looking. But Miriam, personality-wise, is my favorite. I love Miriam.
I agree. I think people are making it weird. Not that it couldn't be weird, but people are making it weird. When I'm like, Mrs. Ryfort is like my new favorite teacher. She's absolutely brilliant, and everyone's like, "Oh, you like Mrs. Ryfort, do you?" And I'm like, I like learning about the history of Pokemon, and they're like, "Yeah, I bet you do." And I'm like, "No, I mean I do, but like, don't. Why are you all tweeting it like that? Super weird." But I mean, also, but like, she's really good at her job.
It's funny because like I had like a weird reaction. Like she was the first one that I approached. I'm like, wow, who is this like attractively designed character, this Mrs. Ryfort, I go up to her and she like doesn't want to talk to you. Like when if you talk to her like before like the plot starts, she doesn't want to talk to you basically. Okay?
I don't want to talk to you, but
so I'm like, so that was interesting because it was very like I liked how she felt like an actual character, but also then I'm like, okay, I'm not crushing on you anymore. Let me go to Dendra and Miriam instead. But then I go to Dendra and she's like, and she treats me like a child. So she's like kid and like I'm just like her. She's like my gym teacher and she doesn't. I'm just like one of her many students, right? But then I go, so I'm like, okay, Dendra, you're hot, but like I don't have a crush on you anymore. Then I go to Miriam, and Miriam is basically flirting with the player character, which is sus, but like I like it.
I didn't know. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't notice that, but I also didn't spend any time in the nurse's office, which is a complete contrast to real school, where I spent every waking minute as I could in the nurse's office because maybe then I'd be able to go home. But I really liked Miss Ryfort, but she has a flicky bit of hair.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
It's the most annoying thing in the world. She's like, let me tell you about the deep secrets of it, and you're like, yeah, and she's like, are you sorry, is there something on my and she's like, and you're like, no, don't worry about it, keep going. She's like, okay, well, if you want to learn about the ruinous I really feel like you're looking to the left of me a little bit. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep eye contact, just flicking up and down.
Yeah, her hair, either like the weight painting is wrong, like maybe a part of her body that moves also affects the hair, or it's just a glitch that it makes her hair flick around. Yeah, it is what it is. I think Dendra also has something like that too. Like it's not just...
do you not like Penny, or are you like?
Oh no, you're the one who's not like Penny. You doesn't like Penny.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, let's just go through the characters. I guess we're going through characters. Well, character design wise, I think this is among top thirds of best character designed region.
Sure. Yeah, I can be on board with that. Yeah.
So yeah, we're all on board with that. Like, I mean, literally every single teacher has like a completely different and really interesting design.
Yeah, they did a really good job with making them all feel very unique and giving them all something,
Yeah, and all the like the team star bosses all look fun, and I really like each one's designs. Is there like one? I mean, maybe there's one that pops out in particular to you. I remember not enjoying the ninja much, the painted ninja guy. But the other ones were all really interesting and visually, like really interesting. Mela has a different collar depending on whether you're playing Scarlet or Violet. Really? No, I did not know.
Yeah, it's like a little Easter egg. She's got like her little neck collar, obviously neck collar, is like it's Scarlet in Scarlet version and Violet in Violet version. But I guess it's like part of their uniform technically because they're all wearing modified, or like just like the uniform changes color, and technically they are students, so I guess it's they're wearing different. Yeah, but the ninja guy I wasn't super fussed about, but I didn't dislike either. And actually, I should say about Penny, like, first of all, the look of the character is really fantastic, and I don't dislike this character. I'm just like, sure, whatever. Whereas I think the other characters were all really strong.
Are you a fan of, let's say, Nimona?
Yeah, I thought, Nimona's great, dude. Are you on Team Nimona?
I like her. I don't dislike her. She's not like my favorite rival, but I don't dislike her. I like her.
It's like they took Ash Ketchum and they got the energy of Ash so right in a way that's just different to like that's kind of different because obviously we've had other hyperactive kind of rivals like Barry, who I like Barry as well, and I'm struggling to think of others right now, but like
I think I like Nimona more than Barry.
Yeah, we've definitely had that energy before, but like Nimona is like just like Ash Ketchum in her single-mindedness to want to train Pokemon and battle, and I think she's brilliant as a rival. I just think that there's nothing evil about her, which is fine. There's she's not adversarial because she's a dick. She's adversarial because she genuinely wants to get better at battling, and she's also showing you she's like the person rooting for you, but only so she can crush you later. So she hopes. I think she's great. I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, her motivations make total sense. Wanting to like, I was gonna say groom you, but like in the positive, grooming can be a positive.
Okay,
what's the positive version of grooming?
That becomes a soundbite. I understand what you're saying.
She
in the
wants
context in which you're saying it.
You to be stronger, so she has someone that's on her level.
Yes,
which is a perfect motivation. Although what's funny is that she would have like been like a tier up in my rival tier list or whatever, if remember in the Area Zero, they're talking about their childhoods or like their families or whatever. She's the only one where like my parents, everything's fine, but like my parents are entrusting the company. Her rich parents are entrusting the company to her like older sister or whatever. But like everything's still fine in the family. It would have been cooler if there was just one more sentence where like it made it seem like she is kind of like she would want more attention from her parents. And that would explain even more everything.
It would, because it's like she's a kind of second child looking for the attention of her parents by being better, by working harder for it. It's like a well written trope.
I think it is. I think that is implied, but it just wasn't really implied from what she said.
I get what you're saying. I do feel that. It's really interesting. Her dad, according to the law, and by the way, I mean, if you're listening to this on demand, this should absolutely not be a spoiler. For those of you who are listening live, this is your absolute last chance to duck out and not have spoilers, because we're well beyond the release window now. Yeah, so her dad is, I believe, the person who runs the Rotom phone company, which is like, it's like a weird bit of, like, it's really snuck in there, but it's like a little bit of lore that just kind of intrigues me, because I think the Rotom phone development is a progression from the Rotom Dex, which is a sort of progression. Also, the phone from the X-Transceiver watches that people used to wear, which is an extension of the Poketches, and the Poketches are something that Oak's involved in through theory and stuff. So it's like that one line of dialogue opens up a whole window of things for me to dig into, which I really enjoyed that.
I would watch that. But then, I mean, Arvin, we're going to talk about that, I guess, when we talk about like the post, like just the main story, the climax and stuff like that.
He's sort of like, I don't want to say the main one, but like his story definitely translates the most into the final arc of the game, I suppose. Yeah.
So then whatever's left is, I guess, Penny, in terms of rivals, because I guess we're starting with rivals for some reason. We already talked about teachers, I guess. Next is naturally rivals. But Penny, so I like Penny. I like Penny. I think I liked her more than you, but even though you didn't dislike Penny. Because I definitely loved the backstory of the Team Star bosses. Was that a thing that you did not connect with? And if so, why?
So it was, and it was something I didn't connect with. And the reason why was, once I am going through my adventure and I realized I had done all the Titans, and I had done a couple of I done like the first or second team. I think I did like the first 2 Team Stars base. The last thing after I did the Titans was I went and did the gym badges. So then I had like 3 Team Stars bosses to go. And pardon me, sorry. So then those 3 bosses, they were all very sequential back to back. And after I realized, this third one, it's the exact same gameplay loop as the first and second one. And I realized, I've got to do this 2 more times. I very much zoned out. And my eagerness to just get to whatever is the big post game of it all kind of made those 3 bases feel like a bit of a slog for me. So I did the Mellors one, and I got a lot of that, and I did the I think you
did Mela third?
I did Mela first.
Okay.
Then I did the dark type. I think it's dark type one. That will go with the cap. And him. And so the other 3 kind of blend together for me.
The last 3 blended together for you.
Yeah, and so they're just kind of this big, thing. The last one's got a very distinct look, which is pretty cool. The one in the top right corner of the map.
So Aerie is my favorite of them. Like, do you know her backstory?
No, not off the top of my head, no.
So, were you... This is funny, because it's like, it's really just cool how like everybody can have a completely different perspective, but it's even cooler when you can actually pinpoint why. And like the moment this perspective changed. But like, after you beat her, her friend comes up and tells you her story, basically.
Yeah. This is sounding familiar.
And basically, this friend used to be Aerie's bully, and would bully Aerie, right? People were jealous of her because she was pretty and tall or whatever. And there was probably more, but I forgot. Maybe she was good at battling too or something. But then kids are fickle, right? So they stop. They just go on to the next person to bully.
Yeah.
Because Aerie, especially since Aerie's very like headstrong and like has she
Bounced
didn't let the bullying get to her, I guess, as much as others would. So the bullies went to other people to bully, and they started bullying the bully.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the bully became the bullied, Aerie, because she's such a nice person, still took her in and, you know, was nice to her former bully.
Yeah.
And like basically this former bully became like the second in command of Aerie's like squad. And it's just, first, I always love that kind of a story. I love when the bully sees the error of their ways and becomes like best friends with the person they bullied. It's just a nice outcome.
It's a nice arc when the people who are like I kind of think a little bit of like, it's not quite the same, but like Jean in Attack on Titan, or characters who appear to really kind of be an ass right from the get-go, and then you kind of, not you learn them, they learn not to do that, but they're still them.
There's a lot of different ways that they get to the conclusion.
Yeah.
Whether just they learned that to believe in this protagonist or the person that they become friends with, whatever. I just, that trope in various pieces of media I love. Like, have you ever seen like just like kid shows where like the bully just becomes, there's always a lot of kid shows that the bully becomes part of like the main group. Like, not necessarily the best friend, but like the bully who's like the bully for the first few seasons, slowly, because he's a popular character, the writers keep on putting him in situations with the protagonist, and then he becomes like part of the friend group. I just love when that happens.
Yeah, so it's a really fun trope. I like that too. I like that a lot too.
Yeah, so that's why Aerie's my favorite. But like Ortega, like the rich kid who like again was bullied. Like, there's just different tropes of different kinds of bullying for the team star bosses.
Yeah.
And you just learn about it, and it's like, and just, well, I just in general loved the twist. I don't know if you did, that these, what we thought were antagonists, I mean, they're still antagonists, but what we thought were villains were actually really good people who just went against their bullies and were blamed for that, basically. And I feel like there are a lot of, even though I wasn't like bullied like in a meaningful way in my time, there were times where like I would, let's say, be picked on, and then I would like, let's say, scream at the bully, or I would just be aggressive towards the person who was bullying me, and then I would be blamed for it because I'm the one who's making a scene. So that's literally what happened.
I definitely resonate with that. No, you know what? I think I'm so far removed from that time in my life that I've maybe forgotten. But like, yeah, dang, that does hit home.
Exactly. So that's why it hit home a little bit for me. And there's different kinds of like, it's like it didn't hit home the fact that they were bullied. Like, sorry, it didn't, like, because I just wasn't really bullied that much, or like I wasn't like, say, the quiet kid like Penny, but I still saw people that I resonated with it because there were people that in my life that I empathized with who had similar situations. But even if I didn't, it's just a cool story. It's just a story that I think is realistic. That's why I liked it. But then when did that stop being a thing that resonated with you? I guess because you just weren't, you just went quickly through it.
Yeah, I think you know, at that point, while obviously the freedom to choose to journey your own way happens, if you're particularly attracted to one or two of the storylines, then you've got leftover in this third story, and you're just kind of like, okay, well, now I've just got to power through this because I really do want to get to the end game. And to be fair to the game, most people aren't going to be playing it in quite the same way, because while everyone loves to get to the end of a game, you know, with myself, for example, there's additional pressure to get to the end of the game because once I know what's out there, I can start making content. And so...
But then why'd you go in a weird order, though?
What do you mean?
Because you still end up in the same... You still finish the game at the same time. So why did you do all the gym leader stuff
I still wanted to enjoy it in the order that felt organic and right to me, you know. I didn't want to... yeah. So, you know...
Well, and I'm not surprised that you wanted to do what was organic. I'm surprised that you thought that was the organic way. But that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I just went the direction that I felt pulled in at the time on a whim.
Well, that's what's funny. So I wasn't pulled in that way, but again, that's what's so cool about this game, that you can do whatever you want. But
you do whatever you want, yeah.
I wish there was level scaling for the bosses, but we get it. Everybody agrees with that. But my natural way for me was, first I did look up the levels of each boss, so I know which the natural way Game Freak made it. So I literally went the best way.
Right.
Because everything scaled perfectly. But also, for example, the gym leaders are the classic neutral route, right?
Yeah.
But they had they were just, it was a very average gym challenge, very average Pokemon League. They weren't hardest. They weren't associated with the plot like they were in Gen 8. It wasn't like a spectacle like in Gen 8. So it's like, it wasn't like I was motivated to go to the gym leader.
I tell you why I was motivated to do the gym leaders was because of the level obeying thing. And I was...
Oh, that was a problem for you?
Yeah, so because I was doing decent, I guess for the first like third of the game, I'd done my 2 team stars and I'd done sort of 3 gyms and I'd done 2 titans and then I did another titan and then another titan and then another titan, and it was a real challenge and I was like, oh, this is great. But then I suddenly realized I had all these Pokemon that weren't listening to me so great. So I was like, I guess I'll go do the gyms now just to like deal with that. And so that's sort of how it ended up being. I was left with the Team Stars base.
Oh, there are a lot of things that you're like, it's not your fault, but like, because definitely the game design's fault, but there's a lot of things you're sabotaging yourself.
That's just going the way that my heart tells me to go,
Which is cool. But like, I definitely, like, I guess foresaw that. I'm like, because I'm a PokeTuber and like my perception of this game is going to be heavily affected by my first playthrough of it. So I have to make sure that it's a balanced and just like, I'm playing correctly, I guess. How I see is the correct way Game Freak would want me to play. That way, I just have the best. I don't just now negatively or positively affect my perception of the game. For like an entire generation.
That's interesting to me. Just in that, like, it feels like, while yes, it's a Pokemon game, it's also attempting to be kind of the first open world Pokemon game. Yeah. And I think a big part of any open world game is that my run through should be different to other people's run through. Yeah. And so while yes, there's the sort of quote unquote intended order. I've never like played a Fallout game or a Skyrim game and not kind of got out of the opening area and immediately wanted to veer off the main track or the classic story. And I think if the game was not designed in a way to accommodate for that, it shouldn't have attempted to be the game it was attempting to be. But that's a side note. You know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't ready to be an open world game, then it shouldn't have been an open world game.
But then we just get another just normal generation instead.
Right, but I'd rather, I'd rather they either do one, pick one and do it right. That's the thing. But that's besides the point. I don't want to.
Then there wouldn't be a lot of the cool things that I would have enjoyed. I enjoyed of the game.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah.
But it's also like, again, this is not your fault because everything when it comes to game design, it's the gamer designer's fault. But it's like by a quarter way through the story, I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's no level scaling. It's also obvious, I think, from the beginning that you shouldn't be just doing one storyline and then going to the next storyline. You shouldn't only be doing gym leaders and only doing this.
The reward though for doing the Titans though is that you unlock all of Groudon and Miraidon's powers.
Why would you want to do that from the beginning? Wouldn't you want the world to open up in a normal pace instead of, okay, the world's not completely open for me from the beginning?
I think it wasn't the beginning because actually it's like I say, like I got about a third of the way through the game on a relatively balanced diet, so to speak, and then it was just past that first third that I was like, I'm going to try the next Titan. Wow, if I can beat that Titan, I might be able to beat this Titan. Oh my goodness, I've only got one Titan left, and there's also less Titans, right, than there are the other elements of the story, or certainly than the gyms. And so by that point, it just became like a bit of a challenge. Ooh, can I do that? Also, wow, I'm going to unlock this kind of next feature and this next feature. And that to me is like really, really appealing. Whereas like the reward for beating the Team Stars base is obviously, I guess, story and some league points. So, stuff that I can do at any time and enjoy at any pace, I guess, well, in theory. And then the reward for the gyms is obviously the obeying level, which they feel both more important to. But
the obeying level is never a case. Like, I guess it's more of a case when it's an open world game. But that was like the last thing I would have thought would have affected you. I don't know. You just, because like even if you're battling Titans, I mean Titans barely give. What's the experience you get from a Titan?
Do you not get experience from battling Titans?
It's one Pokemon though, so you just get like less experience than I'd.
Yeah, but I'm still taking my time and like battling wild Pokemon and using the Let's Go feature and everything else. I don't know. I just found that my Pokemon became. I
assume I did the same thing too. So, but I don't know how you got over leveled then.
I don't know. Yeah.
How many hours did it take to get to the end for you? If you can remember.
I think I might be wrong. I think about 30, 25, 30.
Yeah, so mine was 32, 35. Between 30 and 35.
Yeah.
Which is we're back to 30 to 35 playtime, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Sword and Shield was like 20 maximum. But we're still talking about this.
Okay, let's keep talking about this.
We're still talking about this. Right. I saw you wanted to switch.
You're seeing my brain like I don't know what else to say though. I don't know.
I have definitely more things to say.
Okay, all right.
But for example, for me, because we didn't talk about my experience with the progression, for example.
Why? No one wants to know your experience. We want to listen to
music
me.
time.
No, I want to hear your experience.
So there was completely different motivation to finish each of the paths, right? For example, Gym Leader was just the fact that the familiarity, also all the characters, because it's the classic Gym Leader thing. It's like the most neutral thing for me. The Arvin path, the Path of Legends, had the best story. I was just the most invested in Arvin, right?
Yeah.
While the Titans themselves were the most uninteresting battles for me.
Really? Okay.
It's literally just you fight one Pokemon.
but it's like a tough Pokemon.
It was never tough for me because I was doing it. Here's the thing: you were going and trying to battle the hardest Titan.
That is true, and it was like a really rewarding experience to get to do that. Like
I battled everything at the right level, or quote unquote correct level, so I know, I guess, the challenge of each thing.
Yeah.
And that was not the most challenging. That was the least challenging of all three paths.
Wow. Okay. Really? Okay. But then, see. Okay. But then here's the thing, right? So you played it the way that Game Freak intended. So that's going to be like I've said before in things like that's Game Freak has decided roughly the difficulty level for you. But for those of us craving just like a little bit more challenge here, there, what I was given was way more challenge with the Titans, which I really enjoyed. But the consequence
way less challenge
was way less Team Stars. Right.
Okay, so Team Star, the motivation to go to Team Star, even though it had the weakest reward and a good story, in my opinion, the motivation was those were the tough battles for me.
Really? Oh,
the Team Star battles were the toughest for me. So, and also I've watched extreme.
Mella's at the beginning was obviously.
Yeah, Mella's was as strong as they were all strong for me. Like they were all strong. It was cool. When you go to them, just one around their level, they're tough, all of them. Well, if you go to a Gym Leader, for example, around their level, it's average, and then when you go to, let's say, a Titan on their level, it's easy.
Who was like did you have like a Pokemon that like carried you a decent amount of the way through a lot of these battles, just generally, or were you pretty even on stuff?
It's funny because the one who carried me towards the end was the one who was like a detriment towards the beginning, which was my Ceruledge, because Charcadet. You have to now train a Charcadet for like half of the game until you get to the Sinistes. At least in my game, it's Sinistea. I think it's Bronzor
and Scarlet. Yeah.
So I am now dragging this Charcadet in almost every battle, and he's not doing amazingly because he's a Charcadet. But then he turns into Ceruledge, and he's literally the best Pokemon in the
game. True, yeah. Because I had a Annihilate, and after just about the time I finished the Titans, and once you've got an Annihilate, everything becomes pretty easy after that, I won't lie. Rage Fist is broken.
So I think the next playthrough, weaker Pokemon, for example, also like my Masquerada, Flower Trick?
Yeah, Flower Trick.
Flower Trick, literally critical hits every single time you use it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most OP thing I've ever used. I've never... I love my Masquerada for it, but it's also like that made things easier.
Yeah.
But now I know next time I just use just average Pokemon instead of literally the strongest Pokemon in the game. I also, because for example, I also had a Baxcalibur. I had relatively strong Pokemon except for like Clodsire, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy when I'm playing, like replaying a game, for example. I'm not like catching Pokemon, let's say like Quagsire, for example, because for me that's a Pokemon with below like a base stat total of below 450, which means unusable, right? Like you're not gonna now start using a Stelcatty or something like that because you know the base stat total, and for some reason in your mind that's not strong enough for your party.
Wow, I don't play Pokemon like that at all. Do you think about the base stat? I don't know what Pokemon's base stat totals are.
Well, okay, so here's what's funny is that like I just put a Clodsire on my team because I liked it a lot. didn't know it had a 430 base stat total, but it was battling like as well as all of my other Pokemon. And now I've learned to not do that anymore, to not care about the base stat total.
Oh, right, cool, yeah. I was going to say, because I genuinely couldn't tell you the base stat total of any Pokemon other than the Mythicals that are all 600. And so I know, like, that, like 500, 600 is, like, really good, I assume. But, like, I genuinely couldn't tell you the base stat total of any Pokemon. I don't know.
It's fine. It's not like I know the base stat totals, like, themselves, more like I know the tier of base stat total.
Right.
Like, I know if it's below 460, that's not a... I usually don't use that.
I know, but I do it more by it's more just done by feeling. So like you say about Delcatty, like I know like a Delcatty or a Clodsire is generally going to be weaker than like say I don't know like a Flygon or a Salamence, and that's I mean to be fair I've just picked two like basically pseudo legendaries, but I like a Charizard is going to be stronger than a Delcatty or a Skuntank, but a Skuntank is maybe going to be stronger than a Dunsparce, but Dunsparce might have more of a gimmick to get used to, that kind of thing, or like Pikamuku or something.
Yeah,
that's kind of like, and I think that's pretty identifiable in the Pokemon, just by the way they look, really relative to each other. Like
sometimes, like no, for example, like Tropius. My whole life I wanted to use a Tropius, right? Then I get one, and it's like it's very weak, relatively.
Right.
And it's like, and I don't want to run into that. That's why I use relatively stronger Pokemon, because I want to have a positive perception of the Pokemon and not like be disappointed in it. Basically.
But do you not enjoy the challenge of like grinding up with a Pokemon that's like it's weak, but I love it anyway? You know what I mean?
Well, my challenge comes from literally just not being overleveled.
Yeah. Okay.
I just in all my games I don't overlevel. So it's always relatively a challenge. And also just the type of Pokemon I like in general, they always end up having relatively good base stat totals. I love starters. Sure. I love, pseudo legendaries. I love cool looking, strong looking Pokemon.
Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter in the end. I really will stop caring about that. So we shouldn't even talk about it. But yeah. So like for example, when you got to the Elite Four, do you remember your levels?
I don't remember my levels.
Because
I struggled. I did struggle on the final trainer though. But again, Annihilate does a lot of work. But the not the champion, not Gita, but the dragon guy, Hassel. He was a hassle. He was a hassle.
Oh yeah. Well, how did you like the Elite Four, for example, as characters?
Cool. You were gonna tell me about a pun 2 weeks ago to do with Larry.
Oh yeah.
What was the pun? Well,
keep in mind this is not the official etymology of his name, because almost every single character in this game is just named after a plant. But Larry, it's more like, okay, Larry is the most normal name. I know that even though that wasn't the origin of its name, it's more from a plant or something. I know that the translators, they knew what they were doing when they were giving him Larry. It's a very normal name.
Yeah.
But also Airy, like as in air, also for like his flying type team.
Oh, okay.
And also, what's it called? I texted to someone, so I remember what I said. Let me just get it for a second. Entertain the chat.
This better be the funniest joke I've ever heard.
Funny or anything. It's just
hilarious. I like.
Oh no, it really was just airy, and also the word lay, like a bird lays an egg. Both of them are contained in his name, so it's like also Salaryman, as Fruit in the chat has told us. But I don't know if that was intentional, but it's definitely even more of a pun.
Yeah. As a bird keeper, I approve. I mean...
Yeah, you like Larry?
Yeah, challenge was good. And Elite Four I liked. I liked the Elite Four a lot. I think the idea of having a kind of young child who... The unsuspecting powerhouse in the girl who uses the steel Pokemon. Really, really cool. Really, and again, regardless of whatever I think about Tinkaton, like... The Tinkaton was strong, like she's doing a lot of damage. So I thought that was cool. I think Hassel is a really fun way of doing, because obviously we've seen powerful Dragon Elite Four members before, whether that's with Lance or Drake or whoever, and I thought this was another nice, very different take on it. Larry is so plainly fantastic. I don't know, what is the quality? What am I liking so much about this guy?
Well, he's just different compared to every other trainer that we've ever seen. Even normal type trainers aren't that normal.
He's just a dude. He is as human guy as human guy can be. I just don't know how else to say it. He's plain, and I love him so much for that. It works. just nails it.
Yeah, and we're also playing like a kids game, so when a character isn't like opting to, the usual kids dialogue and just doesn't care,
yeah,
that's entertaining. But for example, Rika is the most popular, I think, other than Larry in general.
Yeah, and Rika's doing
Love
things
Rika.
to me that I don't understand, but
Okay, so here's the thing. Rika just felt really realistic.
yeah.
I don't know people like that, but like I've seen people like that. Like,
Okay, yeah.
she just feels really cool. Like she
Yeah.
didn't feel like she was written to be cool. She just felt like a real natural
person.
cool
Yeah.
person, and that's what I really liked about Rika.
What was Rika's type specialty again?
Ground, which is also like
Yeah,
I like
it's very
like,
grounded. She's grounded, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very down to earth.
Yeah. No, I thought really cool. I liked the it was a bit what is this nonsense, but also I quite liked it. The Elite Four quiz at the beginning, like the
the
entry exam, which I thought was good.
Did you get? We talked about the bug for the Elite Four music.
We mentioned it in the last podcast, and the conclusion was I might have had the bug, but maybe didn't know.
Exactly. Okay. We'll talk about music. Yeah.
And then Geeta is someone whose design is phenomenal.
She looks even one of the few characters where in game she looks better than like her artwork.
Yeah, and
In game she looks really good.
you're thinking this is. I'm about to Cynthia battle again, aren't I? Like this is going to be something for. And then the battle happens, and yeah, I guess a battle happened. That was really the feeling.
I mean, even though like it was a below average champion battle, like I think end up with my last Pokemon. So I don't know why it wasn't as memorable, but like and also she used Pokemon that I like. I like Avalog, I like Go-Go, I love King Gambit.
Yeah, King Gambit. I thought that should have been her ace. I thought that
Glimmer, everybody thinks should have been first, so it would set up the toxic spikes.
Yeah, I can.
So it would have been a cool team, honestly, because they are very mystical looking Pokemon. Like for example, I'm a huge fan of what's it called, of Espatra.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Espatra fan. So like again, like I liked her team a lot. It just didn't. A lot of the teams in general, like even like the Elite Four and like Rivals, the teams felt weird in this game. Not in a bad or good way, just like the team compositions were a little weird.
But there was something, I think, the thing that this region maybe not struggled with, but something they had to compensate for, was that in a previous game, when you go up against the, let's say the dragon-type gym leader of Johto, of course she's using Kingdra as her ace, because why would she not? Although actually, maybe Johto's a bad example for this, because they reuse the Sonic Arrow. But, generally speaking, we really like the gym leaders whose ace is a new Pokemon from that region that's given some spotlight. With this game, every gym leader had a Pokemon that seemed like relevant to them. So like, for example, Lono and Iono, and Bellibolt. But at the end of the day, her ace is a Mismagius with the Terrestrial. Yeah. And so, like, I think the final bit of the battles that it always builds up to is a Pokemon that we already know, just using the Terrestrial type.
I just realized another reason why this happened is, for example, Arvin. His team is all food-based Pokemon.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But it's like... But other than the food theme, it's like these feel like a completely different Pokemon to each other,
Yeah.
They're all completely different. They're not the same type. They're all, which is cool, but it's just like, I don't know. It was a mix of a lot of different generations, which is cool, but for some reason it felt weird. I don't know why. And it wasn't like a negative or anything. So we went through, I guess Clavel we never talked about, and we didn't really talk about Penny yet, but like...
Or the gym leaders, really.
We didn't talk about gym leaders, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can, like, quick scope on the gym leaders, because I don't think we will have time to go through all, like, individually, but...
Design-wise, great, like, as personalities and, like, story-wise, not below average, like, I think just average gym leaders, because, again, this is after Generation 8, where all the gym leaders are part of, technically, the whole plot of the game, I guess. They're cool. I really like the gym leaders of Gen 8. And like Gen 5, for example, have really good gym leaders. And technically 100% are part of the plot.
I liked Rhyme, the double battle, the ghost double battle. Yeah. I thought Rhyme was really cool. And I liked is it Grusha? Is his name? But wasn't it a bit weird that his gym was just like basically just around the mountain from Rhymes, and that it wasn't really in a town or anything? It's kind of odd to me, but
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, you probably did it in that order, I assume. Wait, did I?
Yeah, I did them like basically.
I think I did like a Titan in between them or something like that.
Right. Okay.
So it wasn't as weird for me. But no, that makes sense. Grusha, design-wise, was one of my favorite. Personality-wise, for example, he's not anything special. Same with like Rhyme. Okay, Rhyme had a cool personality. Rhyme I liked design and personality-wise, but she had nothing to do with anything. Like almost all of them had nothing to do with anything. They were
Rhyme and one of the teachers are related.
Time.
Right? Yeah,
Time.
Rhyme and Time, because they rhyme.
Makes sense.
And Time mentions Time has a little bit where they mention like, "Oh, you snuck up on me like a ghost," and it's like, the ghost gym leader. That's cool.
I originally, because I saw a leak of Rhyme, her design, I thought Time was Rhyme. I thought we're gonna end up with one of the teachers secretly being a gym leader, and then it's just a sister.
That makes sense because they're like,
that's funny.
Okay, and then
Iona ended up being my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most interesting design, most interesting personality. Like the idea of like being a famous streamer also, like, I guess, incorporates the entire region instead of, again, just a gym leader of a town and has a job, you know?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I guess I go to the Pokemon world to try and get away from work. So I don't want to deal with annoying streams.
We don't have to go through all of them. Like Kofu, I like. Yeah. Like there's no like a below average gym leader here.
Sure, yeah. Whatever.
Katie was just like an average gym leader, you know what I'm saying? She's nice, quaint design, quaint personality.
I have no idea who you're even talking about, but yeah.
Exactly. So,
exactly.
Although I guess, I mean, she's famous too. People are liking her.
She's gonna be the psychic one?
No, okay, she was my least favorite, the psychic one.
Okay.
No, Katie's the bug one.
Oh, okay.
The baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the psychic one I always forget. Because she's just like a beautician and like she just looks beautiful. It's just a normal trope that you see.
Yeah.
It's nothing new, really. Beautiful woman, that's her thing. Whatever. That's the gym leaders. Average, I'd say, while the quote-unquote rivals, because they're not really rivals, all of them, but the people who are our age, I'd say above average. Clavel I really liked.
Clavel I like Clavel.
Okay, so I mean, you understood like his motivations to, you know, just
yeah. He's the new headmaster, or relatively new, and he's just trying to, you know, he doesn't want to be seen as an old fogey. He wants to be like be good at his job and be like cool and down to earth, but no one thinks he is. But that kind of is like an adorable quality about him, which I quite like.
Originally, when you said you weren't a huge fan of the Team Starfall thing, Street, I wrongly assumed that it was because, like a lot of other people, the reason you didn't like it was because of the quote-unquote mystery of who Clavel and Cassiopeia are. And a lot of people, that rubbed them the wrong way. They're like, this is obvious who these people are. Why are they making it such a mystery when the game isn't?
I don't.
You don't like that part, obviously.
So it's an odd thing because, like, with Clive, it is obvious that even a toddler playing the game should understand that that's Clavel. I think no one's, but with Cassiopeia, I think they try and set that up as an actual mystery. But obviously, again, you know, like if you've played a video game before, you know, like that's obviously going to be Penny. I think I mentioned it on the podcast before. I really enjoyed the bit where. Not where Clive turns out to be Clavel, but where Clavel says, by the way, I'm Cassiopeia. I was like, what a twist. What a twist. I was blown away. And then I was just kind of saddened a little when it turned out that was not the case.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. And, yeah. Because it was the opposite for me. But, yeah, Clavel, there was some people who just hated the Clavel thing, even though, like, the game's literally, like, it's obvious that it's Clive. The game literally tells you that it's Clive. I mean, Clavel. That Clavel is Clive.
The game isn't trying to trick anyone with that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really not taking itself seriously.
So it's not like it's patronizing you in that aspect. Maybe it is a little bit with Penny, because Penny literally comes right after Cassiopeia leaves, which they shouldn't have done, honestly. I think it would have been an even better mystery. It would have been an actual mystery if Penny didn't show up throughout the whole entire game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I completely agree with that. Well, what did you feel about you would have had Churro, right? I had Sada, you had Churro.
Oh, okay. If you want to talk about that, we'll talk about that in a second. I guess, yeah, we're done with all the non-Turo and Sada characters.
I think, yeah.
So let's actually talk about the story. I mean, we also technically talked about the story, so let's talk about the climax. First, we talked about Area Zero, did we? As a location?
I don't think we did. No, we did. We talked about, like, certainly the look and feel of the location. We didn't talk about the story or anything. Am I right in assuming, though, are we skipping the generation of a Pokemon? For the first time, maybe ever. Just
skipping the generation of a Pokemon. What the hell
are we generating a Pokemon? This thing that we do on the podcast from time to time. You might not be familiar. But every now and again, I like to. It's a little bit I do sometimes. Sometimes while you're not noticing. But and I actually put those because the Pokemon that are on the thumbnails, they're actually the Pokemon that we generate.
Oh, I didn't put that together.
Yeah, that's how that works. I was just wondering if you wanted to do that this week.
Oh, you're the one who did the thumbnail? I thought that YouTube just generates the thumbnail too.
No, I make those. That's a yeah. It's okay. It's all good though. I don't mind.
Like a stupid idiot right now.
No. God, no one would be thinking that. Ever. No.
Because I wasn't paying you because I thought you weren't doing anything.
No. Well, you should be. We're working on that, right?
Yeah, just wait a few months.
Okay.
Let's generate a Pokemon.
Okay. Do you want to should we generate a new Pokemon?
What does that mean? What, you want me to generate an old Pokemon? What is that?
You can give me a number between how many new Pokemon are there? There's like 120?
Generation 8 Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. One between 1 and 100 and 3?
Is that how many Pokemon there are?
Apparently, who cares?
Okay, but I'm not going to tell you which direction I'm going to go. So you just go around and give me a number, I guess. Generate the number.
I'll give you a number 56.
Did you generate that?
What does that mean?
Did you randomly generate it?
No, I thought of it.
Okay. That's fine.
The point? Yeah, okay.
Give me a moment, just entertain.
Oh, are you now counting 56? Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I should have given them 2.
I'm also doing it vaguely as well.
True. Let me see. Wait, Clavel and Clive are the same person? Says Gaming Ghost 147 in the chat. Yeah. Sorry. I mean, we did say we would spoil.
We literally can't talk about this one because we did this last time through a different random number generation system that we did. We got Bombardier last time, and that's number 56.
Oh
so
no!
Give me a number between 1 and 10.
9.
Why are you like this? All right, well, actually, this is pretty good, and it ties in with the story. So we got Glimora, which is obviously the champion Pokemon. I really don't want to put that on a thumbnail, but maybe I'll put Gita on the thumbnail.
Yeah, put Gita.
I'll put Gita on the thumbnail. Yeah.
Is that the only Pokemon that's exclusive to that place, other than the Paradox Pokemon?
So I don't think it's actually technically exclusive. I think you can find outbreaks and stuff.
Well, Glimmet, but not Glimora.
I don't know. I think. Yeah, okay, sure. I mean, that would make sense. And I think Glimora's got, like... So, I really enjoyed my time in Area Zero. Obviously, Pokemon theories are, like, a thing that I'm into, and so, like, finding out lore and stuff. And a giant rock flower... Every character in this game is named after a flower. In fact, most characters in Pokemon over the last, like, 5 generations are named after flowers and plants and whatever. Rock flowers, crystal structures that give power, is a very common thing throughout the last few generations of Pokemon. You got your Mega Stones and your Z Crystals and your Terrastal Stones and whatever else.
Ultimate Weapon.
So, Glimora is a Pokemon that kind of sits at the heart of a lot of those things and is now only available in the wild in the Great Crater of Paldea. You can imagine my mind's running, pretty wild.
Yeah.
And given that this is the Champion's Ace as well, what did you kind of take from that?
Well, it sucks because I put it in my D tier. Or not my D tier, my C tier. It's like one of my top 10 least favorite Pokemon in the generation, but not because of anything about it. It's more just, it's just not the type of Pokemon I like in terms of like, I don't want a flower with no personality, a rock flower without a personality. That's just not the type of person. But for what it's supposed to be, how it, the storytelling that it just by its design that it tells, how it's the champion's ace. For example, I did really enjoy seeing them on the walls of Area Zero's caves. So, like, as a Pokemon, there's nothing wrong with it. It just sucks that I really did, I already finished making the video for my tier list video, so I can't, like, undo it. But there were a lot of Pokemon, for example, I made the tier list in the beginning, like, right after, I started writing the tier list right after, like, finishing the game, but then, it's gonna be out in like 2 months, not 2 months, in 2 weeks. And also, I took like 2 weeks to produce, so that's a whole month of my opinions on all these Pokemon changing.
Yeah.
And it just sucks that now I have to release this tier list, and I feel bad. Like specifically Glamora, like it's funny that we generated that, because that was one of the ones that started making me doubt a lot of my picks and my tiers.
Interesting.
But because I just learned more about them. Like for example, even like what's it called? I hated Tatsugiri, for example. It was one of only 3 Pokemon that I disliked.
Last time we spoke about this, like 2 weeks ago, you did not like Tatsugiri.
Yeah, and it's like, but seeing just how much everybody enjoys Tatsugiri, that just makes me enjoy it more. Like, or it's like, okay, like my worry was that it would be too simple for everybody, and it just looks like a fish with googly eyes, and it's just like not interesting enough. But everybody thinks it's funny, and then when people tell me why it's funny and why it's cute, I mean, I knew why it's cute, but just why they appreciate it, then I start appreciating it. That's how, because you shouldn't harden your heart towards Pokemon designs. It doesn't do anything to just be stubborn about your negative opinion about a Pokemon. It's not like it's a politician or anything that actually affects your life, like so I started looking at I started going to the areas where this Pokemon is found, and you just see it around, like for example that island with all the Tatsugiris. They just look like little like jellyfish, like candy, like sweets.
Yeah.
And it's just cute, and like they look delicious, and that's what made me appreciate it. Like just
they add a lot of personality to the area,
Yeah, and like I already understood like the Dondozo like connection. I just didn't really care for it that much. But then again, like just the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. So it's like it's still a negative. It's still on my D tier because I can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it works. All the D and C tiers, they all get moved up one by the end of the generation. Anyways,
what do you think it means that Glamora is the champion's ace Pokemon and that it's only found in Area 0? What do you think about that?
That's what's so crazy. So like when she sent out the ace, I'm like, why is this her ace? It sucks. Although it was cool because I didn't know its type at the time, so it was hard to battle it. That's why I like about, for example, all the Paradox Pokemon. I forgot their types, or I didn't know their types, so it's like it was very challenging to battle against Turo or Sada. Mm-hmm. But what I was gonna say is that, but once I saw them on the walls of Area 0, I made this. Like I assume the connection a lot of people made were like, wait a second, I just realized these Pokemon only live here. Does that 100% means that she's been connected to this? Right? She's been down there, and she. Yeah. Are we gonna finally, maybe in the DLC? I mean, originally I was like, is she gonna be an antagonist? And she wasn't. And I don't think they're gonna make an antagonist in the DLC like that. I don't think they're gonna turn a character into an antagonist in a DLC.
No, probably. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
But it would have been so cool if finally champion antagonist.
Why do you think they wouldn't make current character an antagonist in the DLC?
Because what if someone doesn't play the DLC? It just sucks to get to have the full arc of a character in a DLC. I would assume.
I get what you mean. No, I do see that.
Well, for example, Volo, that was post game, right? So it wasn't like.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really conclude her arc or anything, but Oleana.
She didn't have an arc, and that's why she was literally one of the weaker champions in terms of story.
No, but in Sun and Moon in the DLC, Oleana gets like a little extra story in Sword and Shield. Yeah, sorry, did I say Sun and Moon?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I don't remember her being part of that. What do you mean?
She gets there's like a little cutscene that plays in the Crown Tundra. That if you go to this specific like area of the Crown Tundra at night, she'll show up and she's got like a cutscene where she's like, I heard like Chairman Rose was out here, and then Peony shows up and she's like, oh, it's you, and like she's got a whole thing with Peony. Do you remember that?
I think I do, because I thought you were going to by mistake talk about how you can find her in the Galar Mines.
No, yeah, that's regular. That's regular post-game. But that's not really like an arc conclusion, so to speak. That's just like an interesting point.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, they did that a lot in the DLC, which was cool, just having characters pop, which I really liked. But yeah, I don't consider that like an arc concluder or continuation. I mean, continuation maybe, but it's like open-ended, so it's not like it's like it concludes a plot, like a person's story. But whatever, we'll see. Hopefully, like you said, DLC has Heath or all these characters that didn't appear. Maybe like the opposite professor is going to show up in the DLC and reconnect with Arvin. Well,
I've seen it suggested that that Clavel could be Heath. I've seen it suggested that through some time travel shenanigans. Because it's spoiler off Band-Aid time. Professors are in this game and they built a time machine.
So the one theory that I originally had, which I think is like, it's not a theory anymore. I think there's an actual answer, which is just how are there future or past Pokemon in this crater before the time machine was made?
Because of the legendary Pokemon, right?
So yeah, either legendary. Originally, I was like the crystals, but the crystals are probably from the legendary.
Yeah. And so there's actually a big thing about this that's been, I don't know if you've seen my Twitter lately, but it's been blowing up with like specifically this thread. There's a translation difference between the Chinese version of the game, which was the version used to produce many of the leaked information that we got, and the English and Japanese version of the game and other languages. So in the version of the game we got, it's pretty explicit that the time machine is a time machine, that it travels the Pokemon back and forth. In time, the Paradox Pokemon are from the past and the future. However, and I've confirmed this with Cerebi Joe, in China, there is a certain sensibility about, governmental sensibility about, so my understanding is, this isn't what Joe said, but about time travel stories. And they are censored in certain ways in China. And so in order to accommodate for that, and this is what I do know, the story is different in China. It's different, and it suggests that they are Pokemon created of the imagination. Now, when you go into the Scarlet and Violet book, in Scarlet version, you see an imagined drawing of like a past Raikou Entei Suicune combination, and in Violet, you get this Virizion, Cobalion Swords of Justice combination, right? And so people are putting the sort of leaked information about that they heard before the game came out, plus this entry in the Scarlet Violet book, plus the idea that the Pokemon appeared before the time machine was even created, to suggest that, they're not time-traveled Pokemon, they're just like past and they're imagined Pokemon. And what I keep on trying to tell people is that no. While that might end up being the case after the DLC and what's alluded to, we don't even know that the Raikou Entei Suicune, Virizion, Cobalion, Swords of Justice thing, we don't even know that they're Paradox Pokemon. They might not be. In fact, they're quite different to Paradox Pokemon from what we've seen of Paradox Pokemon, because they're a combination of Pokemon, whereas other than the Iron Valiant, which could just be one or the other, none of the other Paradox Pokemon do that, and everything else in the game suggests that they're time travel Pokemon created from a time machine that was created from a third legendary Pokemon, which also has the power to send things through time, presumably, because that's how they made the time machine. So therefore, that's how Paradox Pokemon appeared in the ancient past. So I hope that clears it up. Thank you for listening to me. Please don't tweet me anymore about this.
The question is, why in the Pokédex entries, they're just talking about that the fact that these Pokemon look like Pokemon that were seen in fiction.
Right, that's the other element. And to that I say, I don't know, because
it just has to be deliberate, because they know if it's time travel, they know that that's not how you allude to time. Like, why would they make that? That has to be a deliberate thing that they, in terms of the origin of these Pokemon.
Well, maybe, because the point is that the Paradox Pokemon are barely seen by people, and in fact, the writings of Heath were ridiculed, right? So I think the thinking is that they were described in that way in the Pokédex as a sort of like, don't be silly. The Pokédex entries don't really exist yet, so all there is to go on is snippings from like comic books and things of descriptions that are fanciful. I don't know that these are actually accurate representations of where these Pokemon came from or whatever. The other thing that's kind of weird is that in Scarlet, the Violet entries are more fanciful, and in Violet, the Scarlet entries are more fanciful. And so you've got to take that into account too. The Paradox future forms don't actually exist in Scarlet. And there's another part to this whole puzzle, which I've just been thinking about today, which is that I believe the version of the game that has Tyranitar is Scarlet, but Iron Barbs is in Violet. Iron Thorn, is in Violet. And the version of the game that has... And that's also true of Hydreigon, I think. Hydreigon is in one and the other. But then Salamence, I think, is in Violet version. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but I think that's right. I think that's correct. And the Roaring Moon is in Scarlet, so it like the version exclusives like swap over for the time thing. So there is definitely some theory stuff there that I got to get digging into. But there's like a whole thing there that's like people are kind of half talking about and whatever. Sorry, I've kind of hijacked on a ramble.
It's fine. But yeah, to be clear, in game, it's at least by the end, it's clear that they are time travel Pokemon. I mean,
I think so.
The professors literally bring them from the future and past, and then they go to the future and past at the end. So.
And there was the other thing on Twitter that you'll like this. At the end of the game, so AI, the text box is like AI Sada, AI Turo, right?
Yeah.
But at the very end of the battle, you might not even notice this because I didn't notice this on first playthrough. And when someone tweeted it to me, I was like, "What? Hang on, what am I supposed to be looking at here?" It doesn't. The last 3 lines of dialogue that they have when the battle ends, it doesn't say AI Sada or AI Churro. It says Professor Sada ? Professor Churro ? As if their voice is coming from somewhere of the actual version of it. So maybe they're not dead. I don't know.
Wait a minute. I think it's when you're talking to them before the battle. Does it say AI Sada and Turo?
I think so. Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, I think that just tells you that that means that their mind is not overridden or overridden by the programming anymore at that time.
Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
They're done being controlled by the protocol, and now they're just back to normal.
Going off on a thing. You might be right. You might well be right, actually. So I might be spilling things. For me, this area, though, this whole end of the game is super exciting because I absolutely... Whether they are past Pokemon or future Pokemon or the DLC changes things or whatever, or Sada's alive, Churro's alive, maybe they're dead, I don't know. The ambiguity of it all, obviously, as like a Pokemon theory person, I love it. How do you feel about that kind of thing?
Definitely different because I wasn't caring about theories, and that's not what the majority of people are praising this place for. But first, let's talk about Paradox Pokemon because that is what I want to talk about literally since like 2 weeks ago because I think we do disagree, and a lot of people disagree with my opinion on Paradox Pokemon, which is a lot of people hate the future ones. And you also definitely way more prefer the past ones.
I do, yeah.
And the reasoning that people say, I think, can also be said about the past forms. And I think both are good. I think both forms are good, and I actually do like these future forms. For example, well, tell me a reason why you don't. Tell me the reason why you don't.
My reason I don't like the future ones as much is because what it suggests is a world where all Pokemon become robots.
Okay, so then, for example, when I'm playing through the plot, and I'm playing I'm along with the music, the atmosphere, I'm also battling AI to a robot. I'm also a person obsessed with the future too. This bleak future that these Pokemon allude to literally makes the battle even more scary and more creepy, along with the music, along with the dialogue.
That's true. That's true.
That's why I think in Violet, so there are different. Both versions are very balanced in terms of how good the climax is, depending on the professor. Yeah. So, for example, I think the fact that the professor made an AI makes way more sense in the future version, in Turo. But the professor's desire for Pokemon, for Paradox Pokemon to coincide with present Pokemon makes way more sense for Professor Sada.
Yeah.
Because,
I agree.
But then also, the personality of Sada is more emotional along with Arvin, because a boy and his mother is mother issues are usually make sense with the boy, but also she has more emotion when she's...
I get what you're saying.
But Turo, as a more robotic personality, makes more sense for an AI, and again, for the future. So it's like, they have a really good balance. So as the professors, I think they're balanced.
That was like a common thing that with other PokeTubers I would hear after the game. I don't know if I said this with you. Is I went, I don't understand how it would work in Violet.
Exactly. I watched so many playthroughs. Every single person were like, "Oh, I picked the correct version. I can't understand how they would do that in the other version." So it shows you how first that you shouldn't really criticize the other version because you don't really it doesn't seem
until you play it, but also perfectly crafted.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to Paradox Pokemon also, I think a lot of the people who played the future Violet did enjoy the Paradox Pokemon, but when they see the Scarlet versions, they enjoy it more. But here's the thing. Again, I think the atmosphere was way more heightened with future Pokemon that look way more intimidating and way more like it's a bleaker future compared to past Pokemon that literally look like...
I guess
exactly what you would have assumed past Pokemon would look like.
I guess what I don't like about it, and maybe I'll change in the DLC, is that if they really are from the future And if the game doesn't suggest some kind of like multiversal future or whatever, like the idea that is the future of the Pokemon world is kind of depressing.
It's just a future.
I guess
it doesn't mean that it's the necessary, and this again can be like literally like 10 million years in the future.
It's true. They may just multiverse out of it
which,
anyway. So
which
who cares?
wouldn't be even
It's
bleak. Why would it be bleak if everybody's robots and 10 million in the future they just upload their consciousness to robots? That's a valid future probably in our world too.
Yeah, but
I feel like that's where we're heading.
Probably.
So it's like it doesn't make. It's not like because I think, for example, the average ancient animal isn't like only 1,000 years ago. It's literally like tens of millions, hundreds of millions in the past. That's where I think those paradox Pokemon are from. Not just 1,000, but like 100 million years in the past. So I think the future Pokemon are 100 million years in the future, and 100 million years in the future, everything's definitely gonna be a robot.
That
not in a bad way. In a little, why wouldn't you?
Singularity.
So I don't think it's like a exactly. Maybe they're a whole hive mind or something.
I really enjoyed I think you put out a tweet about the fact that the final boss is glitching being perfect for these games, which I thought was great.
But for example, I thought Turo was way. I watched a lot of playthroughs of Scarlet. Turo is way scarier.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
It was also his hair goes up like a Super Saiyan when he's like.
Oh, does he? I haven't actually looked. That's cool.
He looks way more intimidating, and it's just along with the music and the atmosphere, the best climax in Pokemon.
I really love the idea of a AI with Master Balls running around in the ancient past. I think though that
it's so cool.
I'm like desperately going to be combing the kind of archives of Pokemon history to see if there's anything that could possibly be thought of as evidence of that was Sada in the past, ancient robots.
You know what's also cool, underrated?
Yeah.
People used to complain about this, but it's literally fixed in this game. Almost every final battle in this game is a 6v6. All the final rival battles, the Ace Tournament, the Professor battles, they're all 6v6.
They're good battles. They're really good battles. The final battle and everything is perfect. And I suppose that segues really nicely into the music, which is phenomenal.
We're not talking about today.
You don't think we're going to talk about? I guess we don't really have time, do we?
We don't have time.
We'll do some music.
Let me finish talking about Paradox and the plot. But for example, Paradox Pokemon. Now let's talk about just not the concept, but just individually. Like people are always complaining that like the future Pokemon, they're all just homogenous. They're all just robots. But it's like, to me, when I look at the past Pokemon, it's the same thing. They're all just feral, ancient Pokemon. Like, it's like the same individual concepts are present in both sides of Paradox Pokemon. For example, you can't just say they're all robots. Yes, they're all robots, but they all have different concepts. For example, Volcarona's robot, Iron Moth has solar panel wings, which is, why wouldn't you do that? That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Iron Valiant. The idea that in the far future, everything, all the genders are just binary, are non-binary, and all the genders have melded, is cool. It makes sense. What's it called? Iron Bundle, even which is one of the weaker one. It's like Mecha Santa is that's a trope. You've seen Futurama, I assume, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's funny, and also just the animations of Iron. Bundle was the funniest.
Do you not think then that there's a limited amount of variation, just in that I feel like with the AI Pokemon, I feel like they've all probably come from the same point in time in the future. You know what I mean? But with the other ones, they could be from all over the ancient past.
It doesn't really matter. They could easily be also from the same time too. It doesn't I don't think that was a factor in terms of whether or not you enjoy those Pokemon. Maybe as a theorist, yes, but I think in general, people weren't thinking about...
I don't know, because, for me, the future Pokemon have a very uniformed design. Yes, they all have different elements, but, they all... I think it's the LCDIs, maybe, is the thing for, all of them, that, I don't know why. That to me, limits... I don't think the past Pokemon have one recurring trait across all of them that does that same thing.
I think the recurring trait is that they're just, more dangerous versions of the original. They're just feral versions of the original.
Okay, yeah, sure, I can see that.
Other than the Donphan, which is my favorite, Iron Tusk is, I think, my favorite, not Iron Tusk, Great Tusk is my favorite of the past forms. But, even Screamtail, it's a cool concept, but it's literally it literally looks like a Jigglypuff, but more feral. Amoonguss literally just an Amoonguss, but more feral.
I see what you're saying.
Mischievous literally looks like a Mischievous, but more feral. While the future ones, first, the base Pokemon are way better. Tyranitar, Gallade, Volcarona. Like, you have even Hariyama, I think these are just the base Pokemon they chose are just cooler Pokemon. So obviously, when you just make them more intimidating and just have cooler colors and just like cooler textures, I'm going to like it. Like, so it's like, why? Like, I think it's just a different concept, and you can 100% like the Scarlet versions more. I can understand why the Scarlets are more interesting because they look more like Pokemon, obviously. But I don't think it's valid to say like that the future ones are like a lazier, for example, concept. And I'm not saying that you're saying that.
No, yeah.
But it's just definitely what a lot of people are saying. Oh, it's just a more lazier concept. They're all just robots. I don't think that. Who cares? The concept is that they're all robots, but they are all well executed robots. In my opinion.
I agree. And don't get me wrong.
Except for Hydreigon.
You don't like Hydreigon?
I know I love Hydreigon, and I like the Iron form because I like Hydreigon, but it's the least creative one. It's just literally just a robot Hydreigon. While the other ones have concepts.
I can see that. And don't get me wrong, like when it comes to the future Pokemon, the Iron Pokemon, like I do like the designs. Like I think the Iron Moth, the Iron Valiant, and
Iron Thorns, the Tyranitar is the coolest.
Iron Thorns is very cool. But I think Iron Moth is like phenomenal. I think as a Pokemon, it's so cool.
I'm just a huge Volcarona fan, so like I may be biased. I just already really, really like it because of Volcarona.
Do you like the Slitherwing?
Slitherwing, yeah, but I technically like that less than Volcarona because it's not just a cooler Volcarona, it's just a different interpretation of Volcarona, which I still like. It's a good interpretation, but I already really liked the...
I'm amazed it didn't get dragon typing, to be honest. It looks very draconic. It looks, yeah.
Do you know that tail thing that it has?
Yeah.
It's actually pretty genius. It's also probably based on the whole, like those, some moths, whenever they're going, and like, when they're mating, they release this like long appendage that isn't what you think it is, but it looks like multiple tails.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot what it does. I think it senses things. I forgot what it does.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called a pencil, I think. I mean, that's the colloquial term, but that's not what it's really called.
That's not the P word you're thinking of.
That's not the PEN word you're thinking of. But no, but exactly. So it's like it makes sense. When I saw the tail, I'm like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. It's really cool. So it's not just a dinosaur moth. But it's funny because, like, for example, the Amoonguss has a tail. So again, you see, like, they have things. They just put ancient things on these Pokemon, which I think is also not as clever as people think it is. It's still cool. I love these Pokemon, but I think people are overrating them compared to the
fair enough.
Steel ones.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will say, I think with, and I guess that makes sense. So I was saying, obviously, with the Raikou and Suicune, they're like a fused thing, and with the paradoxes, they didn't do that with anything other than really Gallade, Gardevoir. I think people are very disputed on whether it's Gallade, Gardevoir, or both. And
it's 100% both.
I think it's both. But then obviously they didn't like the flip side of that is
especially because they have the typing. The typing
it's both of their types together. Obviously, the flip side of that is the Roaring Moon, which is super, super cool. One of my favorite. I think it's actually stellar. But also, that's obviously clearly Salamence. Like, I don't think there's any other. It's not like Salamence is a split evolution that they did that for. But I guess that makes sense if you're talking about like it's being the kind of the concept of a future where gender is kind of merged together. And I like that. I think that really works for Iron Valiant. But I do think Roaring Moon is sick. I wish it flew more because the animation of it flying is like 10 times better than the animation of it on the ground.
I didn't play it, so I didn't realize that. But I 100% agree. Which is funny because people wanted a lot of the flying Pokemon to be grounded, which they did for a lot of them in this game. But I guess they didn't for that one. I guess the final thing we should talk about is literally just the professors before we end this podcast and sign off and then talk about music in the next one. Which is, I think the literal everything that has to do with the professors was perfectly executed. And I think Arvin was probably definitely top 5 best written characters in the game too, in the franchise. Again, like even if things happen, cool things, like you may have a cool character. Let's say, what's a cool character in this game? What's a character that showed up that's really cool?
In this game?
We'll say Nimona.
Yeah.
We'll say Nimona. But that doesn't mean she's the best written character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are a lot of characters that are awesome, like, I don't know. Like, I love Sonya. And I do think she's a good, well-written character, but it's not like she had an arc that was the best written.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sada and Churro very clearly do in this game, and Arvin.
But Arvin specifically, Sada and Toro, again, I think aren't top 5, but whatever is with them is well-written. But it's not like we see this whole arc that spans the entire game. While Arvin, for example, is like, let's say, N or Lily or even Gladion, if you want to say. Those are characters that throughout the entire game, they have a well-executed arc, and that's what makes them one of the best-written characters.
It's a really odd thing because Nemona feels like she was designed to be your main rival throughout the game. But really, it's Arvin's story, the whole thing. And like, it really feels like Arvin's, like, by the end of the game, like, you start off being like, ugh, Arvin's kind of an ass. But actually, by the end of it, you're like, man, this is a cool,
my best friend
character. I would hang out with Arvin. I'd hang out with Arvin after, like, like, knowing what he's been through, man. I want to hang out with that guy and just make sure he's doing all right and, you know, keep it on the straight and narrow and maybe make some food together.
Did you battle him in the Academy Ace tournament?
No, I actually haven't done the Ace tournament. I beat the rebattles of the gym leaders, but I haven't done that bit.
One of the most underrated battle musics. Nobody's talking about it, and some people like don't like it. I think it's one of the most underrated battle musics. But whatever, you see him there, and his dialogue technically continues that arc. I think, where it's like, this is the person that he's become. I want to be friends with this guy. Yeah. Based on what he said.
I'll try and do it between here and next week, as well as watch some Full Metal Alchemist.
Please do.
I missed that show. Full Metal Alchemist.
Dude, I've literally in the span of us talking, not talking. We watched Full Metal Alchemist. The first few arcs when I was there in England. Came back to America, literally in the span of when we finished where we left off, because you basically didn't continue more than what we left off. In that span of like 3 months, I already watched a lot of reactions to Full Metal Alchemist, like the entire series. Like I already technically watched it twice more.
I'll try and get caught back up.
That's how much I really like the show. But again, I'm not going to expect you to like it as much as me. But I don't know. I really do think it's a good combination of, let's say, Avatar and Attack on Titan. It's like right in the middle between both of our favorite shows. I'm
going to keep going with it. It's this is kind of the first week that I'm not like dying with a million things to do and kind of finally breathing again, which is nice.
Same.
Shame after
I'm
this
very
podcast.
excited to...
Whoa.
Oh, what? I was excited, and now you're saying shame.
No, I didn't say that.
I'm excited for next week when we talk about music, and I'll be streaming that. That way we can play some music, I think. I don't know. We'll see. Definitely on stream, I'll try to play a few of the tracks that I think I want to talk about, but obviously, even if we don't, I always, a few months after the game's release, I also make like a top 20 Pokemon music video for that generation, or that new main series game, and I really look forward to making those. Have you ever watched any of my top 20 music videos?
I haven't watched any of your videos.
It's fine. The music videos are the only ones that are good.
If you say so.
So I'll recommend you one of them.
If you like.
What's your favorite region in terms of music, if you can remember? Like, or just, it doesn't have to. What do you think is your favorite soundtrack of Pokemon?
Gosh, probably
Well, that video came out literally within the first year of my career. I'm not going to send you that one because that one's definitely not as good as the other ones. So I'm not going to send you that one. And I also, like, my opinions are completely different. That was like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But if you want to check out the Sword and Shield one, you can. Although the Sword and Shield wasn't my favorite soundtrack. I loved it just as much as everybody, and maybe even more, because I'm a big Pokemon music fan. But I think people overrate the Sword and Shield soundtrack a bit. Even though it's definitely an A at least. But some people are like, that's an S tier. That's like the best soundtrack. Well, to me, it's just
Ron,
an A.
You're doing it again. You're moving into the music podcast before we're at the music podcast.
Yeah.
He wants to talk about music.
Shut up. You want to have an actual sign-off for once?
No.